They say it takes a village to raise a child. I'm Kathryn Ryan, and here we draw on my conversations with experts on 9 to Noon to help you navigate family life. To the bane of many parents' lives, and the kids, let's not forget, headlice. With no regard for personal hygiene or wealth, nits do not discriminate. They make themselves at home in children's hair across the country in schools of all deciles. They spread like wildfire and they'll keep coming back. Our next guest, Julie Chapman, founded charity KidsCan, which runs a health hygiene program in 732 primary schools nationwide. Headlice treatment is top of their list. They've sent out 25,000 bottles of headlice treatment this year and recently ran a Nit Busters campaign. So can we get rid of them? Is cheap conditioner and a good nit comb the way to go? And what are some of the other problems for primary school children caused by insects? And of course that kids have no choice but to spend a lot of time around a lot of other people each day. We make them go to school. Text us on 2101 or email us your questions. Julie, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. One of the more memorable interviews I think I've ever had was with an Australian who was an expert on the louse and adored them. He was a scientist. Because of their ingenious, they are, let's acknowledge them, they are absolutely ingenious and have a very good system set up for sharing time with their human host. Tell us what KidsCan is doing to help out schools.
Yeah, well, I think, it's important to acknowledge that head lice certainly aren't choosy about who they attach themselves to. We have a program that runs in decile 1 to 4 schools across New Zealand to provide product and combs for families to treat kids. But they're a problem in every school around the country. I think the difference in terms of why we need to provide that for families is that some of them are really struggling to pay the expensive cost of treatment. So, in many cases we see those lice get so out of control that children end up with infections in their heads and even in some cases hospitalisation. So they're nasty, and if you don't keep on top of them, they can have consequences in the medical sense.
So what's Nit Busters, the program you're running, done?
Well, we had that program running where we had people going in and checking for head lice and actually treating children in schools. It was a program that was really successful but would have cost a lot to scale up across New Zealand. So what we do now is we actually, try and educate through schools the parents of the children we support. We provide the product. We provide a really, really good comb, which has got a double set of teeth to really, capture those eggs and the lice. And we want to make sure that we can get that product out and the knowledge around how to treat them and why they occur to as many families as possible.
So what is some of the advice that you're sharing?
Well, I think it definitely, they're really hard to get rid of. You've got to keep on top of them. You've almost got to check your child's hair every day to search for those kind of elusive, and the nit is the egg of the lice, and then they hatch and they become the head lice itself. So unfortunately, the only real way to keep on top of them is to spend time. You can use conditioner and a comb, go through your child's hair once a day, perhaps at night before bed, checking, especially around the back of the head and the ear area, and that's the way you'll keep on top of them. But unfortunately, they're not going anywhere soon, that's for sure.
What about cutting or tying the hair back? Does that help at all?
Yeah, if you've got long hair and it's loose, certainly there's going to be more opportunity for head lice to attach themselves or get onto the hair. So I do recommend actually tying long hair back. I think also what we see is a more head lice in younger children at primary school than in older children, because younger children tend to be more in each other's physical space, and older children, they get that sense of personal space. So definitely doing that, and using products that I guess have been proven to work, or if you can't afford those, the conditioner is a really good option because it stuns them.
That's the thing. The conditioner won't kill them, but it will stun them and give you the chance to comb them out, right? And what sort of time have you got?
Oh, it slows them down. So I mean, you put a whole lot of conditioner in, then you slow them down. It kind of stuns them. So basically, you're able to comb them out. But the other product that probably is the, I guess, most well recognised product is anything that's got an ingredient called dimethicone in it. Now, dimethicone is like a silicon, and once that actually gets onto the lice, it dehydrates them, almost kind of makes them explode, but not in a kind of massive way. So you won't have heads popping all around the place.
Actually, some kids would probably be into that.
They probably would. Yeah, they probably would. But that stuff actually does work really, really well.
It can even, just remembering Professor Rick Spear, our earlier interview, it can even actually sometimes kill the next generation as well, actually, of lice, I mean. It can kill the embryos as well.
Yeah, it can. And I think, because, I mean, I remember my mum telling me when she was growing up, her mother put kerosene on her head and all sorts of things. Now, that's a big no-no. I wouldn't recommend that. You're likely to burn your child's head. Equally with tea tree oil and those sorts of things, you've got to be really careful because the irritation that can be caused is significant.
As the problem, yeah. So what's got dimethicone in it? What are these products?
I think there's a range of them that you can get from the chemist, and you're looking for something that's got about 4% plus dimethicone. We've actually just developed a product ourselves at KidsCan because we recognise that the cost of treatment is huge. So it's not publicly available yet, but hopefully next year it will. And that's got a really high concentration of dimethicone, around the 6% mark. So yeah, and it will be cost effective.
What about the kind of comb you're using?
So you do need a good quality comb. We recommend one that's got a double set of teeth in it, so that it gets those tiny, tiny eggs that you really want to get out of your child's hair. They can be quite expensive though. Those combs can retail anywhere from sort of $15 to $20. So I guess you've got to kind of start with what you can. But however, in saying that, if you invest in a good comb with a double set of teeth, a metal comb up front, it's going to last you a long time as opposed to just buying a plastic comb.
We've also had a text come in. Are you aware of this? A text suggesting that there is a publicly funded treatment available via GP prescription if you qualify?
Yes, there is. That's available through your doctor to children under 13 years old. So you can go there if you've got a problem with head lice, and your doctor, it's funded through Pharmac, so your doctor will be able to give you a prescription for that, and you can go to the chemist. And that product does have the 4% dimethicone in it also.
Hair straighteners, some people are recommending. Do they deal to them?
I think they would probably... Personally, I haven't had experience with that, but I guess they would heat up the lice and certainly kill them. I don't know whether that's going to
be great for the hair necessarily long term.
Yeah, I think you could use it as part of your toolkit, if you like, or your plan of attack for them. But certainly, I think you also need to be checking daily and going through your kids' hair and getting a good comb.
There's also, I think this dates back to the earlier interview, there was a question about hair colouring, but from memory, all that does is disguise the lice, or the louse rather than kill them. Have you heard anything along those lines? Yeah,
they don't have a preference for clean hair, dirty hair, coloured hair, non-coloured hair. Their mission in life is to get to your scalp, so they can stay there in a nice warm environment and multiply. So unfortunately, that's a bit of a myth. However, if they, do actually leave your scalp and for some unknown reason get onto your bed clothing, they can actually survive for about 24 hours. So it's rare for head lice to kind of fall off, but they can survive for 24 hours.
What of follow-up treatments? How long do you have to, for each episode, how long do you have to keep at it?
I think I'm sure many people are out there saying you've got to keep on at it all the time, but you follow the instructions on the product that you've got, but generally you're doing a treatment and then you're following up within a week, and sometimes, I mean, we know through the program that we ran in schools, it would take sometimes up to 4 weeks to actually ensure that a child was lice free. But these are, we're talking about really severe infestations, which are awful to see.
What are some of the other hygiene programs that are part of KidsCan?
Yeah, well, when we first started, we knew that there was a huge need for food and clothing and shoes, but as time went on and material hardship got worse for families, the health and hygiene items started becoming a more requested program. So we started providing head lice treatment. That was kind of our first cab off the rank. We also supply tissues, plasters, hand sanitizers in school, and more recently in the last 4 years, feminine hygiene products. And the demand in particular for that is so significant that we've added that into our child sponsorship program that we run, so that young girls can get access to those products.
Is that not only about price, and there's been much discussion about that, but also availability in schools? Because, of course, we know that puberty is coming earlier and earlier to a generation. And are you finding many schools are actually geared up to be ready to assist?
I think it's really interesting. We've got 54 of the primary schools we support are ordering product from us, and that's children who are up to age 10. So girls are reaching puberty sooner. I think primary schools, teachers are certainly aware of it. Where the issue comes in for the decile 1 to 4 schools that we support is they have families that they're struggling to put food on the table, to make ends meet, and pay their rent. And some of those items, like feminine hygiene items, which of course most of us would take for granted, just simply don't factor into the budget. And so we're seeing girls not come to school, use toilet paper, stuffed socks, all of these things, which are just awful, And I know back in the old days, women used all sorts of things and methods to be able to manage their periods, but now everyone should have access to the type of product that they want.
And also, it's about it not being a big fuss, a big drama. I mean, it is anyway, isn't it? But not a bigger fuss or drama that it needs to be, especially now, as we said, that it's often younger and younger that girls are experiencing this.
Yeah, and we don't want them to feel stigmatised. And I think, certainly through our program, this year alone, we will have provided about 20,000 packets by the end of the year. And, our goal is to make sure that girls, can get to school in a position to learn. They don't have to take that week off every month. But also that they don't feel that shame, because this is a natural thing that happens, to women. And imagine being in the position where you just didn't have access to the right products. I can't even imagine what that would be like.
We've just had some emails come in on the nits, and of course there's always, everyone's got their own particular approach that they believe works or has worked for them. Did we mention tea tree oil? I know it's often discussed, this emailer says, before there's an outbreak. Get a few drops of tea tree oil rubbed in the hands and rubbed through the hair to keep them at bay.
Yeah, I think you can do that. I think the thing to be really careful of is that in a concentrated form like that, it can cause irritations. So it's important that you kind of test that a little bit before you kind of go dousing the whole head in tea tree oil, because it can burn. Yeah.
The other thing, I know you mentioned, I think from our expert earlier, they had done, this is Rick Spear a few years back now. I really recommend that interview, by the way, mainly because he was so entertaining and so admiring of the genius of the louse. He sort of destigmatised the louse for us all. But he was saying the washing of sheets and pillows was probably unnecessary. I think they had done some research and never found a nit surviving on it. But up to you whether you think that's something wise to do at the same time. But what about others in the family? I mean, what are the sort of what's over the top and what's practical within the household?
Yeah, well, I think if one child gets it, it's likely that the others will too, and also the parents. You've got to check everybody. You've got to treat everybody if they have them, because it's a never-ending cycle, and if you don't get on top of it, then it's just going to continue. And of course, if your child goes back to school and there's one family that hasn't treated their child, then it starts all over again. So unfortunately, in that regard, there's not any good news, and head lice are going to be around for a very long time, but it is really about the vigilance and keeping on top of them for sure.
What about, here we go, just found it. Another feedback. The electric battery-operated comb that zapped and killed the lice in my children. We tried endless chemical formulations. The zapper was satisfying as we physically killed them. And the only thing that worked in chemical-free, I'm slightly wary about recommending electric devices, but are you familiar with those? Do they work?
I haven't actually personally had any experience with those. I think the satisfaction probably comes from the sound of them popping and exploding. So kids might actually like that, but again, I would. I'm not sure I could personally recommend that, but I think parents are just looking for whatever works, aren't they?
Whatever works.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we put this program into schools, one of the reasons we did it is because little girls were getting their head shaved, and that is not cool. It's embarrassing for them. They don't want to come to school, and it's just not something that should be happening.
Thank you, Julie. Julie Chapman.